Welcome to Critical DMG, a podcast about two best friends who might have grown up but never grew out of their love for the Game Boy. We will be playing and reviewing every North American title released on Nintendo's original handheld console. This is episode 19. I'm Tony, and the only thing already dead is my opinion of this game.
Ooh.
I know.
And my name is Jeff. Today, we are talking about Fist of the North Star, 10 big brawls for the King of the Universe.
Hokuto no Ken, Seizetsu Juban Shobu.
Yes. Right now, I'm going to say from now on, we're just calling it Fist of the North Star, but that's the official long title. Typically, right now is when we would get into our listener question from last week. To make the show flow a little bit better, we're going to save that until the quiz section, so we're not going to be going over that right now. That leads to Tony. What are your opinions of this game? Should someone play it?
No. No.
Oh, okay. I think I'm also a no, but I think I'm also much more on the fence than you. So that's interesting. Typically, you're much higher on games than I am, but we'll get into that. Give us the back of the box.
Even the back of the box is disappointing.
Oof, not a good sign.
Fist of the North Star, 10 big brawls for the King of the Universe. 3 different games of fighting skill in one great game pack. Normal mode, challenge the computer. Versus mode, go head-to-head with a friend. Team mode, create an invincible dream team of warriors, each with a special power. That's it. The end.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
So the game was released in April of 1990. Published in the US by Electrobrain. In Japan by Toei Animations.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say that right, Tony?
Mm-hmm.
And that is notable because this game is based off a manga or an anime.
I'm excited to actually talk about this because this game is going to make for interesting discussion, I think.
Unfortunately, I've never seen or read this property before. And so, one, I apologize to anyone who's a big fan. Also, please forgive me if I mispronounce things. I'm going to do my best. I've tried to look up pronunciations. If I do mispronounce them, again, I apologize, but it might happen.
I've forgotten most of them anyway, so it's okay.
Yeah, I guess, Tony, do you want to give us like a quick, maybe spoiler-free rundown? We're not going to talk too much about it because it's not directly needed to play the game, but might as well.
Sure, so if I was going to do a back of the box for this, better than whatever was written here, I would probably mention something about Kenshiro wandering a wasteland that's supposed to be, the manga says 2010, actually, I think, which is really funny.
Really?
Yeah, because there was a nuclear war in the 1990s, and it made the world a wasteland, and it's like kill or be killed, and Kenshiro is this heroic figure that wanders the wastelands, just kind of helping people and kicking bad guy butt.
Pretty much, yeah.
For anybody with younger viewers, our show might be family friendly. Fist of the North Star is not.
Yeah, it seemed to really be maybe groundbreaking, if you will, on that front, that it seemed gory.
Yeah.
And maybe one of the first things that kind of showed a lot of that or had that premise that was kind of mainstream.
I'm definitely no expert when it comes to like the history of anime or manga or anything like that. I did brush up on the first volumes of Hokuto no Ken.
Oh, okay.
Just to kind of get my memory back up to speed for who these characters and stuff were, but this and some others were definitely known for being very graphically violent for the time.
Mm-hmm.
The anime tones it down, but even then, it's still a lot of explodifying heads.
Yeah.
Of which there's none here. There's no explodifying here.
There is no explodifying. There's no super secret 5 puncture point technique
Nope.
thing. It's pretty much a fighting game. And with that, do you want to just go ahead and get into the mechanics?
I am ready to go.
All right. If it wasn't already clear, it's a fighting game. The goal, you're beating up the other big sweaty guys, and it is only guys in this game.
Right.
And controls, pretty simple. Your D-pad moves you around, up, jumps, down, crouches. A punches. If you hold A, you do a Hadouken. In this game, it's called primarily an aura wave or a vacuum drain. But you shoot a thing if your character allows. And then B kicks. So not all characters can do all those things, but that's generally the controls for the game.
Yep.
Tony, who was your character? How far did you get? What was your gameplay experience?
Oh boy. I want to preface the mechanical discussion, especially with the fact that I love fighting games.
Interesting.
Out of all of the genres of game, 2D fighting games are one of my most favorite. I will play garbage fighting games if I can find something redeeming in them in just about any way.
Bizarre.
So I was really excited for this one.
Yeah, so I've seen you play some very bad fighting games that I definitely would not. And I think this show is teaching me something about myself as a gamer. I'm a lot more opinionated about genres than I thought I was. I do think fighting games are maybe not my favorite. There are some that I really love. I grew up playing Tekken Tag and, Super Smash Brothers, obviously.
Sure.
I really enjoy that. But I think most other fighting games that I've played or thought about, I'm very lukewarm at best at. So I find it interesting that you're really into fighting games, but you're definitely against this one. And I'm maybe lukewarm on fighting games, but was maybe a little bit more enthusiastic about this one.
I can only be against this one because it is disappointing on basically every fundamental level for me. There's no way to block. Like, it's not assigned to a button. It's not hold the back button and you automatically block or nothing. There's no blocking. Some of the characters have movesets that are just ridiculously unbalanced.
Yes.
They can hit you from a long distance without you really being able to get close. The hitboxes are basically non-existent, which is essentially like a number one priority when it comes to making a fighting game feel good, and they were awful here. I applaud it for having any kind of super move, even though basically everybody sort of did the same thing, and the ones that didn't were extremely powerful. You basically either shot one or two little tiny fireballs if you charged up your hit, or if you were one of the other characters that had a projectile attack, it was like 3 or multiple different directions or whatever, and it was bad. So I'm glad that they put something like that in there. That way it's not just walking up to the other character and pressing the punch button, which I know some of the really early fighting games were, but there's no making up for just how much of a failure this is on, I mean, the most basic things a fighting game needs to do.
Interesting. I'll definitely agree. The controls are a bit clunky. I felt like they were serviceable, but you couldn't really change directions once you committed or anything like that. To your point, the hitboxes, if the enemy was too close, you couldn't hit them, which led me to a lot of times where I would just spam the kick button because kicking did more damage. I would just spam the kick button until the CPU decided that they wanted to back up and back up into the hitbox, which, that's not necessarily a fun play pattern. I ended up playing mostly with Kaio.
Okay.
Mainly because each character has a different stat spread, I guess. And I went through and looked at them all and quickly added them up in my head. And I believe Kaio had the highest stat spread. So I was just like, oh, they must be the best. I'm going to go with them. they have like a 3-shot charged A move.
Right.
And it literally, there are only 2 characters in the game that you cannot cheese with the charged attack. It's Hart and Uyghur, I believe, is how you say their name. They're kind of like the big beefy guys, and they don't have a charge move. They don't have that ability. Every other character, if you stand far enough away from them, they will just try to charge attack you, and you can just easily jump over, shoot your charge attack, hit them, charge your attack, jump over, and it's very, very easy to cheese.
That's so interesting to me, because the fact that you don't particularly have any sort of affinity for fighting games potentially leads you to looking at this as just like a puzzle to solve, or just like any other boss fight to exploit. Whereas I, who really likes fighting games, was not looking for like a cheese strat or anything. I was doing my best to play this like a fighting game.
Yeah.
I even checked the manual to see if there was any kind of other special moves or like command inputs or anything, and there's really not. Like, there's some stuff that, you know, if you like mash the A button or something as Kenshiro, that's who I played as for both of my runs.
Okay.
You can kind of do like a combo punch or whatever. But again, the hitboxes are so bad because this isn't a regular fighting game where you are blocking incoming attacks and still feeling any sort of impact. The only time you get any feedback that something is hitting is when it actually does hit. And there's a little spark at the point of impact or whatever, and the characters will kind of like bounce away from each other ever so slightly. But like you said, when the characters are stacked on top of each other, you can't hit anything. No one can hit anything at all.
Yeah, nothing happens.
You have to just like back away from each other. And that's not how it works in a regular 2D fighting game. I don't even know if that's how it would work in other 2D fighting games of this era, because I haven't played enough of the really old ones, but I don't know if that's a problem unique to this game and its lack of collisions in that way, or if that's something that they just hadn't quite figured out yet. But it's one of the biggest detriments to the game, because it means that if you're playing against a character that has extremely long range with their basic attacks, it's practically impossible for you to get close enough to them to do anything on your own. And then if you do, and you overshoot and you end up getting your sprite into their box, you can't hit them anyway. So what are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
I cheated for this one.
Ooh.
I played it on my own the first time. First session, I played it from start until I died. I got through, I want to say, the first like 5 fights. It'll be in the footage.
Okay.
And that was totally from scratch. Hadn't read the manual, nothing, just going in, fighting game brain turned on. And then after that, when I had gone back and read the manual and decided to come back to it, I realized that the experience point system in the game basically doesn't do anything except increase your stats.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, so there's no easy mode or hard mode or whatever. I'm just going to increase my stats with a password and see if I can make any better headway. So I found the list of passwords, put in the one that made my character highest level, which I think is 35 or 36. And I went through the entire game. I made it all the way to the end. The end screen literally just says congratulations, and then it's over.
Yep.
That was the only way that I made it through, though. And even then, the final probably 2 or 3 bosses, I mean, or fighters, whatever you want to call them, they all sucked to play against. They all had longer range or really powerful projectile attacks, and the hitboxes are still bad. And it was just really annoying because they also had more HP to get through and were actually dealing damage and stopping me from just continuing through the playthrough, that I didn't really feel like I was doing that much better, because even though my stats were higher, so I guess mathematically I was doing more damage or whatever. It sure doesn't feel like it, because only one out of every half dozen or more of your attacks actually connects in the first place.
Like I said, I spent most of my time playing as Kaio, and initially I found kind of jumping into like a crouching kick was the best way that I could find to deal damage without taking too much. So that's kind of what I did, is I just jumped into them, crouch kick, jumped into them, crouch kick, that sort of thing.
Pretty much, yeah.
My B button, I'm pretty sure, is like smoking after playing this. So
oh yeah, my hands hurt so bad.
I was just mashing, the B button, because again, kicking theoretically did more damage, I guess. I don't know why you would ever punch, but that was my strat that I found. And while I do love always finding a good cheese or a good exploit for games, and, I'm not above doing that.
Of course.
I found that on accident. I was losing a fight, and so I was kind of trying to keep distance from the enemy while I figured out what I was doing. And I noticed all they were doing was sending charged attacks at me. And I kind of sat there for a bit, and then I was like, well, what if I just do it back to them? And the CPUs don't dodge range attacks very well. So yeah, I was like 2 hits from being dead, but then apparently being halfway across the screen was too far for them to go. And so, I was pretty easily able to make it through. I did try to, in my first run, not use that. I think I only had to use it twice when, I was about to die. And so I was just like, okay, I'm just going to cheese it so I don't die and get through it.
Sure.
So yeah, I did 2 playthroughs with Kaio. One that I just described. The second one, I wanted to see, okay, how far can you take this? And that's how I learned, there are only 2 enemies that will not, that don't do that, but they're very easy to beat anyway. I then played as one of those enemies. How do you say that name again?
I think it's Uyghur.
Uyghur.
I haven't gotten that far.
Uyghur.
I haven't gotten that far in the manga yet.
Anyways, I then played as Uyghur, and again, he's one of the big buffy dudes. He has whips. Super cool, I guess, but he can't crouch.
Right.
Playing as him, I realized the CPU would just crouch under me, but because my attack was longer, they couldn't get close enough to hit me. So there was multiple times where I would just be spamming the A button. They would be spamming the punch or kick button. And it would be until they got up or one of us moved or something before anything happened. And that was very unfun play pattern.
So I was on the receiving end of that. That was me. Like when I played as Kenshiro, that was one of the bosses that was really annoying to fight, because even if I tried to duck underneath the attack, I can't reach. So if I got up to move to try and get in closer to do damage, I was getting hit from the length of the whip attack. And if I tried to stay outside the range, I couldn't charge because he would just walk up to me and hit me and disrupt my charge. So I basically ended up just having to spam jump kick the whole time, which is really boring.
Yeah, that's, like I said, that was the strategy I found early. So I was just jump kicking and it worked out. Really, my takeaway from it was any of the characters that have a charge attack, you can kind of cheese your way through, and then Hart and Uyghur, just don't play them. They're just bad.
R.I.P. Hart and Uyghur.
The last thing that I kind of want to talk about, which you did hit on, is the password system, which I found surprisingly good or interesting. So if you die or if you complete the game, you can either hit continue to continue playing there, or you can hit password, and it'll show you a 14 character password.
Yeah, it's kind of long.
It's long, but I tried it. I got Kaio to level 4, Uyghur to level 2, and Kenshiro to level 3. And the password was able to restore all of them to those levels.
That's pretty rad.
So I'm assuming they have a unique password for each character combination for each different level, which half of me wanted to figure out how many different, categories that could be or how many different options that could be. I didn't, because I didn't feel like doing math. But honestly, I'm pretty surprised that that's how the password system works. And that's how much, I guess, control you have over the password system, is you can really kind of control like what level each character is if you really wanted to.
That is pretty interesting. The password that I put in when I played my second time around was just a make all characters highest level.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to know that they saved each individual one. It's not something that hasn't been done before. My 9-year-old was just recently playing some of the NES Mega Man games and their password systems. You can actually tell what each spot on the password is supposed to correspond to. So
really?
This spot means you beat this boss. This spot means you have this E-tank. This spot means blah, 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 blah. So if you know what passwords mean what and how many spots you're allowed to use, you can sort of reverse engineer like a custom password. So I wonder if you could do that here. Like you said, if there is a unique combination for every level of every character, because it doesn't save your progress, it just saves the last level that you had achieved. So if you level up, it will tick up whatever it is on the password system to register that character has achieved a level up.
Yeah.
But if you make it a couple more fights, don't level up and then lose and then restart with that password you were given.
Yeah, you don't get that XP.
It doesn't save the fight you were at. It's just the XP that you used to reach the current level you were at. So that's still interesting though, and I wonder if they do keep every individual spot.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it. Like I said, I tested it a few different times with different playthroughs of different characters and things like that. From what I could tell, it seemed like each individual thing was saved. I can't tell a pattern with, the handful of passwords that I have, but yeah, maybe there is a pattern that they used. Otherwise, kudos to whoever, devved that in and came up with those. But
right.
I did find that interesting, and I felt like that was it's kind of the first time I've seen that. So a pain to put in, but a cool feature.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first fighting game that we've had on the Game Boy. That's pretty cool. I do have to say that the speed and the performance of the game are pretty nice for a game this early on the Game Boy.
Agreed.
It never lagged. It wasn't slow. The characters jump and punch and things easily. There's not a lot of sprite flickering or anything. So that's pretty nice for a one-on-one fighting game this early in the Game Boy's lineup. So, there are things about this that are impressive in the same way that other games that we've had that we haven't liked but have done impressive things for the early Game Boy are. But as a fighting game, the mechanical stuff on it just was not it.
With that, I think it's time for our ad break.
Ad break.
I'm sorry, Tony, but some of these older Game Boy games are just bad.
Oh, right. Like you could do any better?
You know what? I probably could.
Yeah? Then do it. Make your own Game Boy game.
Tony, this isn't the 90s. I am not learning assembly.
Not necessary. Just use GB Studio. GB Studio is easy to use game building software that lets you make games for your favorite retro gaming rectangle. With versions available for Windows, Mac, and Linux, it's never been easier to make a game for the Game Boy. And GB Studio's multiple project modes means you can develop for the original DMG, the Super Game Boy, or the Game Boy Color. Using a drag-and-drop style of visual scripting means you don't even need any prior programming knowledge to get started. And the best part is, your work can be built and exported as a fully playable Game Boy ROM, ready for any emulator or flash cart you choose. Learn more or download GB Studio for yourself at www.gbstudio.dev.
Mama, did they ever make a Sonic game on the Game Boy?
No, afraid not, dude.
What about a Rayman game?
They did, but it's a Game Boy Color exclusive.
Ugh.
Sorry, kiddo, but Critical DMG is supposed to cover all the North American games on the original Game Boy, and in chronological order, too. That means we'll be talking about the ones you don't already know.
Well, was there at least a Mega Man game?
Yeah, a few of them.
Yay! I'll definitely listen to those episodes when they come out.
Great. The show should get to the first one sometime in 2028.
But that's so long from now.
Yeah, you're telling me. And we're back.
So back.
I think the music was pretty good in this game. I unfortunately can't call it memorable, but that's more because I was so focused on what I was doing in the game, trying to actually like win the fights and not just lose from all the jank. So I was too busy with that to really appreciate it, but I actually took time after, you know, my conclusion with playing the game to find the soundtrack, like find some of the tracks and just listen to them separate.
Okay.
And I think they do a pretty good job of giving the vibe of what the music in the show sort of sounds like. There's definitely more jazz in the show, which I really would have appreciated here on the Game Boy. But I think as far as like action hero, virtuous, saving the day kind of music and mixed with the like tense climactic battle type stuff, I think they do a pretty good job.
Yeah, I thought the title music was like the title screen music was a little awkward. It was like very, very short, not in a loop. It was just short and then stopped, which I found a little interesting. And then I found the general music to be a little repetitive. I probably had a lot more time to listen to it while playing because I was just standing there holding A and jumping. Aside from that, yeah, I didn't have any issues with it. I thought it was good enough. Again, maybe a little bit repetitive, but I liked it well enough.
I have 0 notes on the sound design here.
I actually have one. Again,
Sure.
Being that I was spending probably a lot more time charging up my charge attack, I do wish there was some audio cue or, you know, visual cue, maybe like a little flash of the bar, or yeah, just some audio cue when you are fully charged and able to use that attack.
Sure.
Because there were multiple times when I felt like I was watching the bar kind of bloom, 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 go up, and it looked full. It looked like it had, you know, taken the full time that it should have. But when I released A, just nothing happened. So obviously I released just a little too soon. So it would have been nice if there was just some cue. I think an audio cue probably would have been best, because that way, you know, you're not having to look at it while potentially dodging attacks and stuff like that. That's kind of the one big note I have on it, is it felt like that was just maybe lacking a little bit.
I thought it was all lacking. Like, combined with how poor all of the implementation of like hitboxes and stuff were, it didn't feel like any of the hit sounds were connecting in any way that mattered. Like you said, there was no indication when you were ready to do your ranged attack. Where's my digitized audio of all of the noises from Fist of the North Star? Where's all of his fighting sounds and stuff, or anything, any noises at all? So yeah, lacking in the sound on this one.
Agreed with that.
Oh, did you have a hard time distinguishing the sprites from the background? Because I really did.
I don't think so. So my biggest issue with the sprites is, aside from a few of them, you know, there are a few that I did quite like, you know, Heart, essentially the big ones, you know, Heart, Uyghur, Kaio, I did quite like. I thought they were unique and looked interesting. But a lot of the, you know, maybe quote unquote normal ones or the other ones all looked very similar to me, looked very, I don't know. There were 1 or 2 times where I started looking at the wrong sprite because our hitboxes crossed and I just started following the wrong one. So my issue with the sprites were more that a lot of them looked too much alike, in my opinion, but I didn't have too much issue with the background.
They do look alike, and that is part of it as well. because a lot of my issue with what I feel makes them blend in with the background is that most of them don't have an outline except on like the shoes. A lot of them will have like outlines on their shoes, and that's basically it.
Yeah.
So there's no black coloring to a lot of the sprites except for like some very fine accent points. And so because the backgrounds also use mostly just the white and light green and the dark green, they also don't really use the black very much. When you're moving back and forth across the screen, the sprites will kind of bleed in to the background, except for those parts that have the accenting, and they don't have that. They're not surrounded by an outline or anything, or at least most of them aren't. And so because of that, and they also look the same, the smaller sprites do sort of just look like guy 1, guy 2, guy 3. It was just really difficult for me as I was playing to keep track of where I was, where the other character was. Sometimes I would have to do like a double take or like blink my eyes a couple times to pull my character's sprite back out of the background because of how much it blended in. That's probably just my old eyes, maybe, but like...
Interesting. I also wonder how much of that is because you were playing specifically as Kenshiro, who is kind of like the generic sprite, I would say, of the game. And I was playing primarily as Kaio, who is like a little bit bigger, I think has a little bit more accent to him and things like that. I wonder if that maybe is part of why we had a different experience with that. Because, yeah, even though I did play as Kenshiro, I had already played a good amount with other characters. So maybe I had gotten a little bit more accustomed to it. And yeah, I wonder if the sprite design of those two different characters weren't the reason we had a different experience.
I really think it comes down to being a fighting game fan versus just being someone who occasionally plays fighting games. The expectations might be different.
That's fair.
Because I was looking for things in like the UI, and I was listening for things, you know, some cute voice lines or special move sound effects. I mean, even the projectiles aren't different. Like, some of the characters have a projectile that's different, but basically...
most of them are just fireballs.
Yeah, they're all throwing 1, 2, or 3 of the exact same fireballs. They don't, like... It was just really bland. For a property that...
is very not bland.
Yeah, for an IP that is very much... big burly dudes beating the snot out of each other until they explodify. They don't all look the same in the way that these sprites do.
Yeah.
The characters are differentiated by like hairstyles or like masks that they're wearing or other things like that. And so to see that this game, which was not the first Fist of the North Star game, it was one of the first ones that we might have gotten in the US, but it's not like it was the first one that was made, so it wasn't setting any kind of precedent for what makes a Fist of the North Star game or whatever. So it was just really lacking. Like, none of the personality of any of the characters was there. The story is gone. They don't even like talk to each other before a match or anything to inject some sort of Hokuto no Ken flavor into this game. Like, it could almost have just been anything.
Yeah, and if you look at the manual, the depictions of the characters, I'm assuming are probably pulled pretty directly out of the manga.
Yeah.
And they all look very distinct. You can tell the differences and all of that. And yeah, I feel like so much of that is lost in the actual sprite design. Again, I feel like the big Viking dude looks more like a big Viking dude in the game. The big, like, kind of sumo-y dude looks more like that. But aside from that, they run together a lot, which, yeah, probably doesn't do the IP justice.
And I understand that of this time, having to go diving into external materials for that kind of like flavoring and stuff is just the norm.
Yeah.
You see the sprite on the screen and your imagination puts the pieces together about what it's supposed to actually look like. And then you might go digging in the manual, or, you know, you might find official promo materials in a magazine or on a commercial or something. It's like, oh, that's what that's supposed to be. Like, I can get that. And I don't know. I feel like small touches could have made this feel more like the characters from Fist of the North Star than it actually did. I don't know that it would necessarily have like saved the game a lot for me, but I at least would have been more enjoying of dealing with the game's problems if I was able to play through the story and be like, oh yeah, I remember this, or yeah, that is how that happened, or oh whoa, they changed this thing. Like, that's why you play these kinds of games, is to experience a different kind of take on the story that you already know or whatever. Like, what do they change? What do they keep? What do they interpret, and how? Yeah,
so I obviously haven't seen the anime or the manga or anything, so I don't have a whole lot of that. But yeah, I would agree with you. You know, you want to expand on the world building, and this just doesn't do that either. Through the manual doesn't tell anything else, and the gameplay and the sprites don't really give you a sense that you're in the world either. So it's just, while I'm not into this IP, I could see how it's a bit of a letdown of this IP.
There's not even like any bespoke windscreen or whatever. Like, it was literally just congratulations and then it's over. Mm-hmm. It's not even like a character portrait or something. I will say the title screen is pretty rad.
That's one of the notes I had. You mentioned how little black they use of, you know, the colors, the color palette for the Game Boy.
It's because it all went to the title screen.
Yeah. This is the first title screen we've had that is primarily black. Yeah. Most of them have been primarily the like very light green. Mm-hmm. One has been kind of the mid green. This is the first one that is primarily black. So I did find that to be interesting.
It's very striking. It looks good. Mm-hmm. And it's a good, it's a good depiction of Kenshiro in that title screen. Like, it's not like, who is this? Or, you know, a really vague shape that's just kind of like, yeah, I mean, I guess it could be Kenshiro. Like, no, it looks really good. And it's actually using kind of very minimal colors. Mm-hmm. Like, the Game Boy already has a minimal color palette, but the title screen here is mostly black and mostly the white and very little of the rest in between.
Yeah.
And it still fits in with the text. Like, if they would have put that much care into the rest of it.
All right. Yeah, I think that's a good place to end on this and jump into the quiz if you're willing.
Yeah, my not worth the batteries. Anybody, fighting game fans, Hokuto no Ken fans, it doesn't matter. I would skip this one if I were you.
Yeah, again, a bit higher on it than you, but agreed. Just save your batteries.
Okay. All right. Quiz time.
All right. So currently just slightly above 80%. Let's see if I can continue with that.
Oh, you will. Kenshiro would believe in you to do
it. Hopefully.
All right. Fist of the North Star quiz. Question 1. As we talked about at the top of this episode, a few companies are attached to this game, the same as a lot of these early Game Boy games that required transportation and translation to the West were. Electro Brain might have taken care of the localizing of the game in the US, but it was Shoei that were the developers behind this original Japanese version, with Toei taking care of the publishing and release. Again, like Jeff said, it was their IP to license.
Mm-hmm.
And even though this is the only Fist of the North Star game that we will get here on the Game Boy, is it true or false that Shoei was responsible for only this game in the series and didn't develop any other Hokuto no Ken games while they were in business?
My brain or like my gut is going with that's false, and they probably did, but I want to be a believer, and I don't know why I want to believe that the company didn't do well.
That's so sad.
That they did not do any other game, but I'm willing to accept that I'm wrong on that.
Well, you are wrong. It's false.
Dang it. All right. Well, I guess that was a win-win. Either I was right or Shoei was more successful than I gave him credit for.
They were. Shoei wasn't just responsible for this game. They also did 6 other Hokuto no Ken games across the NES and into the SNES as well. Well, I mean, most of them were Famicom and Super Famicom. They did not come west. They range from action games like beat 'em up style to role-playing games. And sometimes they feature original storylines that take place in alternate universes or with descendants of the main series characters.
Ooh.
Right?
Not off to a good start, but let's...
No. You broke your streak, too.
So I actually finished filling out the spreadsheet on which questions I get right. I actually get question 2 and question 3 right more often than question 1, which I know is a little bit of a counter to what we thought, but
wow,
stats don't lie.
It always feels like you get the first one right.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. It's like some sort of confirmation bias or something. I believe that you get the first one right, so you must get the first one right.
Yes.
Okay. Question 2. For older influential anime like Fist of the North Star, it makes sense to expect there to be at least a few games made for the franchise at various points throughout its history, but there's actually been about 30 games relating to Fist of the North Star that have been made since the late 80s.
Really?
Right. Not very many of them came to the West at all, and if they did, they unfortunately underwent a rebrand from their original anime theming pretty much most of the time. The very first of these Fist of the North Star games to ever be brought to the West is one of these cases, having its theming replaced with something much more generic, all the way down to its title. Instead of Fist of the North Star, what was the title of this first Western reskin? Was it A, Black Belt, B, Raging Fist, C, Eternal Dragon, or D, Fight Man?
Oh, I'm not feeling good about this.
Obviously, it's Fight Man.
I would believe it. I would also believe what Black Belt was one of the options. They all sounded so correct.
I can promise you it's not Fight Man.
I was about to say, I don't believe that, and I believe you also said in the past that D is the joke answer.
I did, and
so...
I wanted on record that your nephew, my 9-year-old, did specifically say, so that means that you can put whatever you want as the answer for D? And I was like, yes.
Oh, I'm going to lock in Raging Fist. I feel like that's a good generic fight game answer.
But it's not the right answer.
Oh.
It was A, Black Belt.
Why do I second guess myself? Ooh.
Yep. The game was literally just Black Belt here in the West. It was ported over for the Master System Mark III in 1986. It was just Fist of the North Star, or Hokuto no Ken, in Japan. Then the version came over here and it lost all of the original characters and all of the backgrounds were changed. They still look pretty nice. They're just like cityscapes and, like exotic locations and stuff, but it had nothing to do with Fist of the North Star after that. It was just generic martial arts guy going to rescue his girlfriend.
I should have known 90s or 80s US would have just been Black Belt and not anything fancy.
Yeah, you should see the box cover for Black Belt. It definitely looks like it has the title Black Belt.
All right. So this is a precarious position. I've never gone 0 for 3 on a quiz. So
oh no, don't even speak it.
All right. Let's hope question 3 does me well.
Okay, here we go. Question 3. We haven't had much in the way of lost media discussion here on the show, but Fist of the North Star has a game in its history with a connection to the one that we just played. Another game with the same subtitle as this one, that would be 10 Big Brawls for the King of the Universe, was in development in the mid-1990s, but was ultimately canceled and never released or made available even in a development form to this day. It too would have been a 2D fighting game, but it was much better suited to that task on its intended hardware than this game we got here on the Game Boy. What hardware was this canceled game developed for and supposed to come out on? Was it A, the Nintendo 64, B, the Sega Genesis / Mega Drive, C, arcade cabinets, or D, the Philips CDI?
I don't like my chances on this.
Think, Jeff. I'm channeling the answer to your brain. That's objective still. I'm just putting it out there. It's objective to do that because I'm not telling you the answer.
Well, yeah, we don't have a Game Link cable that's long enough, so we're hosed. Oh, I want to say arcade cabinets. When I think fighting games, I think arcade cabinets, but that's not a system.
Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Go with your gut.
Okay, I'm gonna say arcade cabinets.
It is arcade cabinets. It is.
Maybe a little bit rigged, but yeah. All right, still haven't gone 0 for 3 in the quiz.
It's our show. We're allowed. And in the spirit of Fist of the North Star, when things look their bleakest, Kenshiro always comes back. So,
and to be fair, I overthought the last question way too much. So
that's very true. It's very true. There's very, very little information about it. Not even really many screenshots of it at all. But it had the same subtitle as our Game Boy game here and was pretty much just 2D sprite-based fighting game. Really nice, lavish environments for the time. Had a special meter, that sort of thing. But we may not ever really know more about it than that, honestly. It's like genuinely lost, I'm pretty sure.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah, well, that quiz hurt a little bit. I'm now at 78%, so slightly below the 80 Ooh. That I guess I'm working towards. But with my quiz out of the way, let's get into the listener quiz. So again, typically we've been doing this at the top of the episode, but we want to move it here to make it flow a little bit better. So Tony, can you remind us what the listener quiz for last week was?
Gladly. So last week, which for everyone would be Boomer's adventure in Asmic World, or Teke Teke Asmic-kun World.
Pink little dinosaur.
Ah, adorable. Bad game. Listen to the episode. Anywho, that game's question was, the publisher, Asmic Ace, helped put plenty of games out on different systems all the way from the Famicom up until the GameCube PS2 era. While not many of them would be considered well-known classics of their time, there is a game that they published and released in 1998 that gets a lot of love from fans like me of surreal and experimental game experiences. Developed for the PlayStation 1 by an eclectic artist's own development company, I wanted to know what game that was. Jeff, did you have any ideas at all?
Again, I still don't think I know what that genre is outright, so I could look at a list of what they made, but yeah, I have no idea.
Sure. And then this is, even to this day, I think still a kind of obscure pull. But it's the cult classic first-person exploration game LSD Dream Emulator.
Okay.
Which honestly is more of a defiance of what games really had to be. By an artist with no real interest in making games named Osamu Sato. Asmic published the game after his own outside director's company developed it for the PlayStation 1, and it's only really gotten a good reception as an art piece in probably the last decade or so. It was pretty much just kind of an oddity on time of release, but I would definitely say that it's been reappraised in recent years.
Interesting. Yeah, would have never gotten that. But maybe I'll get this week's listener question.
So, our question for Fist of the North Star, 10 big brawls for the King of the Universe. I hope that's the last time I have to say that. There was a prequel series to Fist of the North Star that ran from 2001 to 2010. It follows the direct predecessor of Kenshiro from the original story, who is quite a different protagonist than this one, despite also being named Kenshiro. It too had an anime adaptation, and I would like to know what the name of that prequel series was.
The One Piece.
No. Yeah, could you imagine the world just went from pirates to nuclear war?
Yeah, I obviously have no idea, but if you do, let us know.
We'll find out next time.
Thanks for listening to Critical DMG. If you would like to support us further, please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts and maybe recommend us to a friend or anyone else you might know who would like the show. It really helps us out, and we appreciate it. I think that brings us to the end of our first fighting game in Fist of the North Star. And join us next week when we take on Flip Pull, an exciting cube game. So I'm assuming a puzzle game, but I guess we'll find out.
I haven't played this one. I do know that it's a puzzle game. Curious to see how it goes, especially when we play without perusing the manual to start, because sometimes the puzzle games can be a little unintuitive.
Maybe we'll have a poll option. Who knows?
I don't know. Anyway, bye everybody.
Goodbye.